Hey guys, Miss Furian here. We're gonna start unit 2 here. This is our radical unit. So we're gonna look at radical expressions, radical equations, all of that fun stuff. So before we start jumping into the really big fun, we are gonna look at simplifying radicals. So these are gonna be really important for you to know, your perfect squares. And I'm not asking you to memorize these because you can find these really easily. So our perfect squares end up being 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, so on and so forth as you see here. And how we find those is we do 1 times 1, well that gives me that one. 2 times 2, that gives me 4. 3 times 3, that gives me 9. 4 times 4, that gives me 16. So that's how I can easily find my perfect squares. I can go through that list and I can keep saying, well, 5 times 5, 6 times 6, 7 times 7, all the way up. And you can keep going 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I mean, as far as you want to go. But those are what numbers I'm talking about when I'm looking for perfect squares. So here's what the questions we're going to ask ourselves when simplifying radical expressions. The first thing, is the number already a perfect square? If the number is a perfect square, you're just going to take the square root of it and you're going to call it a day. So the square root of 4 is 2. Okay, square root of 4 is 2. And I can figure that out because 2 times 2 is 4. So square root of 4 is 2. That's why when we have the perfect squares, that we can just take the square root of it right away and be done. If that can't happen, then you have to look at what perfect square goes into the number evenly. Okay, so you're going to go through your list and you're going to start from your biggest perfect square to your smallest perfect square, and you're going to find the first number that goes in evenly. So you're going to divide those numbers out until you get to something that works nicely. And then you're going to simplify. So you're going to break the number into factors. The perfect squares must be one of them. And then you take the square root of each of them. So words don't mean a lot. Let's go ahead and look at some examples here. If I think of my perfect square, so I have 1, 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 3 is 9, 16, 25, 36, 48, 64, 81, 100, 121, 144, so on and so forth. I'm going to see, first of all, is 121 in my list? So it is in my list. It's right here. And I'm going to figure out then what number times itself is going to give me 121. So to do this, you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so the square root of 121 is going to go straight down, and it's going to give me 11. That's my final answer then, and I'm done. So you can actually figure that out on a calculator too. You can take the square root button and plug in 121 and see if it gives you a whole number. If it doesn't give you a whole number, then you know that you have to simplify using the next couple steps that we're going to look at now. So let's look at 50. So again, I'm going to write that list. I'm going to start with 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49. And I could keep going, but my next number is going to be bigger than 50, which I know I'm not going to use, okay? So 50 is not in my list at all. What I'm going to do, in my calculator, I'm going to do 50 divided by 49 and see if I get a nice number, okay? 50 divided by 49 is not going to give me a nice number. It's going to give me a decimal. So then I'm going to try 36. I'm going to do 50 divided by 36. It's not going to give me a nice number. It gives me a decimal. So I'm going to try 25. 50 divided by 25, it gives me the answer of 2. So this can be broken into 2 factors, and factor just means we're multiplying them, where one of them is a perfect square, and we just found that perfect square to be 25. And the other one is what you would multiply by. So 25 times 2 would give me back up to the 50. And now we're just going to simplify. The square root of 25, well, we can take that. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The square root of 2, 2 is not in my list, so that's going to stay the square root of 2. That radical is now simplified, and that's all. Let's look at number 3 here. I'm going to look at my list. I have 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64. Okay. 48 is not in my list anywhere. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to divide out to figure out what number is going to go into 48 nicely. So I always start with the lowest number. I have 36, okay, 36. 48 divided by 36 is not a nice number, I'm gonna try 25 then. 48 divided by 25 is not a nice number. So I'm gonna go back down. I'm gonna do 48 and I'm gonna divide that by 16. I'm gonna see that 16, when I do 48 divided by 16, I am going to end up with 3. So I know that I can split 48 into the square root of 16 times the square root of 3. So I'm going to simplify this. Square root of 16 I know is 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4, square root of 3, 3 is not in my list up there, so I have to leave that as the square root of 3. Let's look at number 4 here. So I'm going to think of my perfect squares. I have 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36. Well, I'm already bigger than the 32 that I want. So I know 32 is not in my list. And then I'm going to start dividing numbers out. So I'm going to do 32 divided by 25. 32 divided by 25 is a decimal. It doesn't work. 32 divided by 16 then. 16 does work. So square root of 16. And it tells me it's going to be the square root of 2. So now, square root of 16 is in my list. It's the 1, 2, 3, 4th number. So the square root of 16 is 4. Square root of 2, 2 is not in my list, so that's going to stay square root of 2. Couple more here. Number 5, I have 64. Square root of 64, 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64. There's 64, you guys. It's in my list. It's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th number. So square root of 64 is 8, and I'm just done. All right, let's look at this next one here then. Writing my perfect squares out. 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, 100, 121, 144, 144, and let's see what comes after 169. Okay, 147, not in my list anywhere. Okay, not in my list anywhere. So we need to break this up. So I'm going to start with 144. Square root of 147 divided by 144, it does not work nicely. So I'm going to do 147, I'm going to divide that by 121. Does not give me a nice number. So I'm going to do 147 divided by 100. Does not give me a nice number. I can keep going. Divided by 81 does not give a nice number. I'm going to find out that 49 times 3 is what's going to give me 147. And 49's in my list, and that's what I want. So 49 in my list is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th number. And 3 is not in my list, so that's going to stay the square root of 3. So these, you really just have to remember your perfect squares and think about your perfect squares. Once you know those, you can divide them out of anything and then try to simplify. This is hard. It's not easy. It's hard. So if you get stuck, please stop and ask me questions. Otherwise, you're on to your assignment.